Hey guys, this is Candle, and welcome back to Final Fantasy. When we last left off, we used the nitro powder to open up the canal, and now it is time to go beyond. But first we gotta deal with some wolves and warg wolves. They shouldn't be too much trouble for us anymore. I think we're still missing a couple level 4 spells. I'll be honest, it's been a couple days since I last played, so I don't fully remember exactly where we left off other than just what's next. Where we gotta go next. Alright. Deal with these warg wolves real quick. There we go. Come on. Perfect. 3 more to go. Just roll right through the battle. Just holding down X pretty much to win. Common complaint, I know, especially with redirected attacks, but you know, this is just a normal fight. You know, it's not really a challenging fight or anything, so. Alright. Definitely enjoying myself, though. Almost done with this fight. Perfect. Alright, so now we can get back on our ship and head out to sea. Alright, going northeast because we gotta sail through that little canal. After dealing with these guys. Goggler and Sahagin. Not even worth trying to bust out the Bolt 2 to deal with. Oh yeah, especially if Jill was the one to get paralyzed there, not Candle or Jack. Perfect, okay. Ah, so many fights. You know, can't really mess around with the encounter rate in this version of the game, and you don't really want to anyways. As annoying as it can be sometimes when you keep getting in fights you don't really want to be in, it's always good to get more extra experience and skill, even if it's, you know, just a pittance. You know, even if you're not getting that much, even a little bit extra is well worth it, especially again, since these fights aren't that tough. You can literally just hold X to mash your way through it. But we'll be in a far more challenging area soon enough, because we're finally leaving the Aldean Sea to explore the greater world. As soon as we can sail north enough to get to the canal. Alright, at this point, you know, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and pop off a Bolt 2. Finish this fight a little bit quicker. In 1 round instead of 2 or 3. There we go. Bye-bye, Sahagin. Much better, much better. There we go. Alright. So, going north. And then we're going to go... I could have gone north real quick, but we're going to go south around this little island chain here. Is it a chain of islands? It might just be one island. I don't know. But this is where the... one of the shrines is, I believe. One of the elemental shrines in the Game Boy Advance and PSP versions. You know, the late game bonus dungeons. You know, the post game bonus dungeons. Pretty sure there's one of them right here. I could be wrong. I could be misremembering things, but I'm pretty sure it's like right there. There we go. Alright, and then we're going to go north here to this port. And we have a new town to explore. This is the town of Melmond, where the earth is dilapidated. Bless the crystals, yes indeed. Oh dear, Melmond is in ruins now. If it wasn't for that blasted vampire. So yeah, they've been attacked by a vampire too. Bless the crystals. The Titan in the cave eats rocks. Precious gems are his favorite. He can eat them forever. That is good to know. What about you? You look important. I'm Dr. Un, but I'm sure you knew that already. I mean, I personally did, but new players wouldn't. What? You didn't? Impossible! You're very full of yourself, aren't you? To the south of this town is a peninsula called the Devil's Tail. You'll find the Terra Cavern there. The closer you went to that cave, plants grew healthier and yielded more. That seems like ages past. Yeah, no longer the case, apparently. The earth is decaying. The vampire dwelling in the Terra Cavern must be behind it. He's blocking the flow of the earth's power. Please banish him for good, so it sounds like that might be where the earth crystal resides. Or at least the altar to it. Bless the crystals. If the earth crystal regains its glow, I'm sure the earth will regain its vitality. Well, I certainly hope so. Hiya, handsome. Why don't you stop by my pop's shop? Okay, which one is it? I'm a farmer and I'm real proud of it. But I'm guessing things aren't going so well right now? An old man named Sada lives in a cave on the southern edge of this land. He's very wise and may have the answers you need. I will keep that in mind. I'm Jim, the dwarf. I've come to investigate the cause of the earth's decay. Well, I'm going to investigate that too. They say the ancients used some kind of rock to launch their ships into the air. That sounds like useful information. Long ago, an advanced civilization flourished in the northern lands. Now it's fallen into ruin. Is that so? So yeah, you can see there is a ruined building here. We can step inside the doorway, but we can't actually go in. This was the town's sanctuary, or in the NES version, the clinic. It was destroyed during the vampire's attack. Likely because the priest inside could have gone against him. But as a result, if we lose a character, if a character gets knocked down, we have to go all the way back to Cornelia or Elfheim to revive them. Except unless if we could afford the level 5 life spell, then we could use that to bring a character back. But of course we can't afford that right now. Even if Jill could use level 5 spells, I'm not sure if she can just yet. But yeah, level 5 white spells, we have Cure 3, Life 1, Dia 3, Heal 2. These two are must-haves, so it's a toss-up between Dia 3 and Heal 2. I don't remember if there's a Dia 4 in this game. There might be. I don't remember. I do know one of the ultimate white spells is Holy, which I think deals extra damage to undead, but it's not specifically like an undead-only spell like the Dia spells are. But we might just get Heal 2 when we can afford it. Yeah, we also have the level 5 black spells here. And taking a quick look. So here we have Fire 3, no Bolt 3. From here on, they start splitting them up because it would kind of be a little too obvious of which ones to take. You might notice that the Black Mage cannot learn Warp 1. He has to be upgraded to the Black Wizard. Same with the Red Wizard in order to learn Warp 1. Warp 1 is actually a useful spell because it takes you to the previous floor of a dungeon. Exit is even better, but that's a white spell. I think it's level 6 or 7. And then you also have Poison and Slow 2, which is more effective than Slow, but it only works on a single enemy. So Fire 3 is a must-have. You always want to leave a space open for Warp 1. And then it's kind of a toss-up between Poison and Slow 2. So beyond that, there is no item shop here. So if you need healing items, you have to go back to Cornelia or Elfheim. I think Cornelia might be a little bit closer. There are weapon and armor shops, but they get a little bit expensive now. So yeah, like the Knight's Armor, 45,000. Good upgrade for Candle, but too expensive. Silver Armlet would be good to get as well, but we can't afford it. Grand Helm, Bronze Gloves, Steel Gloves. You know, we picked up those as loot, so we don't need those. And then weapons. I'm not sure if there are any better weapons here beyond the Mystic Key loot that we already have. Crosshair, Saber, Longsword is a good upgrade, but we can't afford it. And then Falchion, or the Falcon. Well, we could afford that, but we don't need it. That's not as good as what we already have equipped. So no real upgrades here right now. We're going to have to stick with what we have. However, we do have an inn, so we're going to go ahead and save real quick. Good, it only costs 100 here. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and heal up. Not that we really need it, but we're going to go ahead and heal up. And we'll take this opportunity to save. And we're going to do this in slot number 2. I don't need that slot anymore. But we're going to leave slot 1 fine, just in case something gets screwed up with this recording session. You know, with this recording video. So I can do it all over again if I have to. Ugh. All right. So now it's time to explore and see what's going on. All right, let's take a look at our... Oh, that's not what I wanted. I thought it was circle and start. There we go. I guess I just wasn't holding circle enough. Let's take a look here at what's going on around here. So we have a couple new locations to go to. So right down here on this triangular piece of land, that's where we actually want to go. That's where the Earth Cave, or Terra Cavern in this translation, that's where that is. That is our next dungeon. There is stuff over here to the east. I don't think I've ever actually been there before going to the Terra Cave, because there's really no reason. That first yellow square is the Titan Cave. That's Titan's Cave, and he blocks your access right now. So I've never gone and explored that to see what he says if you show up without the item that lets him, you know, that gets him to let you pass. So we might go check that out real quick. I don't know. Ooh, I'm kind of curious. I think we might just do that. I am really curious. I've never been there without going to the Terra Cavern first. You know, without going through the Earth Cave first. So yeah, the Earth Cave, the Terra Cavern, that is where we find the first of the elemental crystals. Like, roughly like a quarter of the way through the game before we actually get to the first crystal. So that is our next main dungeon. Oh, crap. A ton of ghouls and gas, and it's an ambush. Oh, we could end up being soft-locked here really badly. There goes Candle. There goes Carl. Oh, Jack and Jill. Okay, good. I'm going to go ahead and pop off a Fire 2 and a Dia 2 to try... Oh, yep, there we go. If Jill gets paralyzed, we're fucked. That's why I had both of them take that Jurassic attack, because I'm like, you know, it'd be great if we could take out this entire group, but if we end up getting soft-locked here, you know, if we get stun-locked, like literally stun-locked, we're screwed. There we go. So I think we'll just do a Dia 1 now, and that should be enough to handle these guys. Perfect. Pop that off right off the bat. Good. Alright, so we're going to go this way, through this little pass here. And check out the Titan's Cave. Like I said, I've never been here without going to the Earth Cave first. So I'm curious to what the Titan says. So yeah, Titan is a long-standing Final Fantasy summon, usually associated with Earth elements. There are no summons in Final Fantasy 1. However, this is Titan's first appearance. He goes all the way back to the very beginning. I think in the NES version, he's called the Giant, or it's just the Giant's Cave. But yeah, you may have noticed there's not really any Earth Elemental spells in the game either. There is one. Quake is an Earth Elemental spell. It's a high-level black magic spell. But the main 3 elemental spells types are fire, ice, and thunder. You know, lightning. You know, electric. So that maps to fire and water, and then the other 2 main elements are wind and earth, which are usually diametrically opposed, like fire and ice, you know, fire and water are. But, so you could almost view thunder as like the wind elemental spell of this game. Although later in the franchise we get arrow, which actually is a wind-based attack. So yeah, here we have Titan blocking the path here, this big stone giant. Enemy attacks first. Alright. And like I said, there's only one Earth Elemental spell. And I think the reason they did that was less to tie it to the world's lore, which, honestly, I kind of wish they had done more to do that. Since you already have the elemental crystals, you have elemental spells as well, you should have tied the magic to the crystals themselves a little bit better. But I don't mind it so much. I think they were going more just for, let's do elemental weaknesses for monsters. Well, we have undead monsters, we have ice-based monsters. Okay, it makes sense. We're going to make them weak to fire. We're also going to make the undead weak to, holy aspected magic. And then, we have fire monsters. Well, why not make them weak to ice? Whatever. But, wind and earth-based and stuff like that, there isn't really, anything like that for elemental weaknesses in this game. No one pass here. That's literally all he says? All right. Well, now I know. So let's go ahead and get out of here, because we cannot pass him to visit Sada. Yeah, Sada, if I went wrong. Let's go ahead and do it. Yeah, let's just do the memo save real quick. And that's not what I meant to pull open. What I wanted was the map. So these other two gold squares to the left here. The one at the top is the other exit of Titan's Cave. The one at the bottom, that is where the sage Sada lives. And so we will visit him soon enough. However, again, we cannot pass the Titan right now. So the only other new place available to us right now... I hit the wrong button again. I did not mean to open the menu. The only other new place available to us now is the Titan's Cavern. I mean, technically we could sail around the bottom of the map to get over to the next town, but there's no real point to it right now. It just takes you out of your way, because we're going to be heading there as soon as we're done in this area anyways. And I don't think you can, that's where you get the canoe, and I don't think they'll give it to you until after you deal with the Earth Cave. I think you have to do that first. But after you get the canoe, that's when you can, sequence break the game and do the rest of the game in pretty much any order you want. Which is, I've always thought is kind of neat. I never do it that way. I always go through it in the order that it's intended, because otherwise you're going to want to do a lot of grinding in order to take on late game monsters. But otherwise, I think we're good. Okay, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and use a tent, because I want to save right here. Now, we do have memo saves available to us in this version of the game. They've been really useful so far, especially in dungeons. But I want to drop a full save out here, and the tent, gives us an opportunity to heal up a little bit as well. We don't get our magic back that we used to get here when we dealt with those ghouls and ghast, but that's fine. All right, so the Terra Cavern. We have 4 different passages straight off in each of the directions. The one to the west here just loops around to that lower passage, comes back in on the right. And then if you continue south that lower one on the left, both of the passages leading off to the left, they loop around, is what I'm saying. If you continue south, that's just a dead end. If we go north, however, there is some loot, and that's what we want to get. Preemptive strike against ogres and ogre chieftains, great. Ogres aren't too much trouble anymore. Canal can one-shot them, no problem. Everybody else struggles a little bit more, especially against the chieftain. But we're doing good, I think. All right. Oh, maybe it's with a critical attack. Canal can one-shot the ogres. Because that was like half the damage that time. Either way, that's fine. Ogre chieftain, not a problem. So yeah, we're still trying to go after all of the loot. I have my guide open with the maps and everything. So I am ready to go. I'm ready to go. Alright, just gotta deal with a single ogre chieftain. No real trouble here. Alright. Ah! Right here. Damn it. Oh, a bunch of gargoyles. They can still hit pretty hard. So I'm a little bit leery of them, but I think we'll be okay with just physical attacks. I don't think we need to use any magic to speed this up, and I don't think we need to run. They're not too much of a threat. But yeah, they can still hit a bit hard for Jill and Carl especially. Jill's doing okay. I think she has the silver armlet, or did I give that to Jack? I don't remember. I think Jill has the silver armlet. There we go. All right, that's another one down. Alright, not great, but not terrible. Ah, Jill, you just had to miss. Oh, Carl landed the killing blow there. Awesome. Good for him. Alright, 2 gargoyles left. Alright. Come on. Just got to deal with you. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so we have a treasure chest here. A lot of the treasure chests are trapped with encounter points. In the Pixel Remaster, by the time of the Pixel Remaster, they've been replaced by, monster chests, so you can't really avoid the fight either way, and you can't run away either. If it's an encounter point, I think you can. I'm not entirely sure. But I don't remember which side is safe here, if it's the front or the side. So we're going to try the front. Okay, front is safe. So we got 1975 Gil, which is a nice little Easter egg. 1975 being the year that Square Company was incorporated. Square Company being the original name of Squaresoft, which would later go on to merge with rival Enix, rival company Enix of Dragon Quest fame to become the Square Enix we know today. All right. Good to have that. All right, so if the northern passage leads to that little bit of loot, the southern passage is a dead end, and the western passages just loop around, and that leaves the eastern passage, which is where we're going to be heading next. However, there is a branch in the eastern passage as soon as you step into it. If you continue east, you'll get to the stairs down to the next floor, but if you go south, you'll end up with more loot off of 2 more branching passages. Uh-oh, we've been poisoned. Gonna have to deal with that. I might want to heal Carl, too, after the battle here. Alright, let's go ahead, use some items. Go ahead and use a potion on Carl. Get him back above 100. And then use an antidote on Jill to get rid of her poison. Alright, we are good to go now. Alright, so yeah, we're going to go immediately south after this fight. What do we got? Oh, that's a shit ton of gargoyles. Yeah, no. I'll try it at least one round, see how well we do. But I may end up having to run just because of how long this fight is going to take with just melee attacks. Because I do not want to use magic if I can help it. I want to try to save that for the stronger fights at the stronger monsters in the lower levels. But Carl is not looking too hot here. So I am going to pop off a spell here. I'm going to pop off here too. And I'm also going to use a potion. But Candle and Jack deal with the gargoyles. So this will fix Carl right up. Pair these well together. Get him back up above 100. Now, Carl's the one I'm always a little bit worried about. He's usually the one lagging behind. And he's usually the one that takes the most damage. Now, at the bottom of the roster, he does only get targeted about 1/8 of the time. But, when he does get targeted, he still ends up taking quite a bit of hits. Quite a bit of damage. Same with Jill. But she's usually doing a little bit better for some reason. I don't know if it's just the way the stat increases go. They're semi-randomized on level up. That's why, every playthrough will be a little bit different, even running the same party. But yeah. Alright, so we're going to go down here. Ooh, a lot of cobras. And they can poison us. I think we'll be fine. We're just going to... You know what? We're going to have you attack. And we're going to have Carl pop off a potion for Jill. He's going to shove a potion right down her throat. Alright. Get her back over 100. I feel like 100 at this stage of the game you know, you kind of want to stay above 100. Anything lower you can get away with for a little while, but if it drops down to like 50 or so, you definitely want to heal. Because you will still encounter monsters that can hit pretty hard. Especially, again, you know, for Jill and Carl. You know, Candle, you could probably let him go a lot lower. He doesn't take too much damage right now, but maybe even Jack a bit. But, yeah, the way things are. Alright. Gonna have to heal up after combat, though. Get rid of that poison. Now, I am so glad this version of the game does not change the order of your party members when they get poisoned. On the NES, just like if they were KO'd or petrified, they drop to the bottom of the list, and you have to like reorder your party every single time. It is so flipping annoying. All right, so we're gonna go here to all the way to the west. That middle one is just a dead end, so you want to go all the way to the left here to get some loot, and then go all the way to the right once you get back up to that branch for more loot. All right. Bye-bye, Anaconda. You know, my Anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hun. All right. You know, I'm not really into asses, though. Some people are. You know, it's nice if they're shapely. I'm much more of a boob guy. Oh, Carl. Oh, we're gonna have to heal you after this fight. I think we'll be able to get through without healing you, but we definitely want to heal after this fight. And we do want to rely on potions at this point, too. Because, again, we don't have that many magic charges. You know, we don't have that many spell charges, so we kind of want to rely on potions and then maybe Jack as our backup healer, leaving Jill's magic for, like, if we really need it during combat and stuff like that. Alright, I think we're good now. We have plenty of potions, too. You know, we're at the point in the game where we'll be able to keep a good supply no matter what. Alright, so it's safe on this side. And it's safe on this side. I guarantee you at least one of these chests has an encounter point right in front of it. But we're good. We got another potion and some gil. So we have not encountered them yet because at this point they're only on encounter points. But, you know, there are earth elementals here, which are pretty strong monsters. I don't think they're weak to anything, because again, they are earth elementals. You know, they're manifestations of earth magic. You know, this being the well of earth magic. This is like where earth magic comes from in this world. You know, it would make sense that you're going to find elementals of that element here, just like you're going to find fire elementals where the fire crystal is, wind elementals where the wind crystal is, water elementals where the water crystal is, and so on. But, you know, because there's no actual diametrically opposed element thing going on here, there's no elemental weakness for Earth. I don't think the Earth elementals are weak to anything. I think fire might be more effective against them of the three main elemental spells. But I don't think it really matters, like, which magic spell you use against them. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Because I do know a lot of the monsters in this dungeon, not necessarily on this level, but deeper down, are weak to fire magic. But that's for a more specific reason we'll get into in a bit. Let's go ahead, heal up a bit, get these three above 100. Alright. And then, of course, the vampire is down here somewhere, too. You know, that's what they said in Melmond. You know, a vampire being undead is weak to fire and holy magic, you know, via spells and so on. But we don't have to deal with him quite yet. We got a couple more floors before we get there. Gonna have to heal this poison, though. Alright, come on, come on, come on. There we go. Last one. Alright. Let's go ahead and pop you open. Nope, not a potion. Let's do an antidote. There we go. Fix that poison. Alright, now we want to go all the way to the right for some more loot. That's a lot of gargoyles. Okay, this is going to be a bit rough. But we're doing okay. I say as we immediately take damage for Carl. Oh, this is not good. Because like 2 or 3 more hits and he's gone. But he's only supposed to be targeted like 1/8 of the time. So it makes sense he would get hit once during that round. You know, and facing off against 8 monsters. Statistically, one of them would probably hit him. Alright, now there's only 5. Ah, Jack, you just had to miss. You could have taken one out. Made things so much easier for us. What a shame. Oh, okay, we're doing okay. We're doing okay. Carl's fine. Jill's fine. You know, we want to heal up a little bit after this fight, but I think we'll be okay. There we go, there we go, there we go. 3 left. Ooh, not good, not good. All right, we're gonna risk it. We're gonna risk it. We're gonna pop off a Cure 2 on Carl, and have Carl use a potion. Nah, I want the wrong one. Sticky buttons. The D-pad accidentally went one further than I wanted it to, and that potion was supposed to be for Carl. Well, either way, we'll have this fight over in the next round. And we'll have a better chance to heal. There we go. Still getting some good gil from this. And experience. Alright, potion for Jack, Jill, and Carl. There we go. All back up above 100. So yeah, we've got 10,000 gil. That's enough for a level 5 spell at least. Which is good, because we can actually do level... Oh wait, no, we can't use level 5 spells yet. When is our next level up? 689. It's not that far away. I think maybe we'll be able to get them then. Alright. Got some anacondas here. Good, good, good. Nice pairing there of Candle and Carl, the 2 C's. The 2 J's, not enough to take on the other anaconda, though. Not by themselves. You know, Candle's definitely the one pulling all the weight here, carrying everybody else. Alright, well, let's do a memo save. I haven't done one of those in a bit. Alright, because I have a feeling I'm going to choose poorly. Yep, I knew it. I knew it. I could have tried to go the other way around. So, yeah, here's the Earth Elemental. In this version, they're called Nomas. But on the NES, they're just called Earth. There wasn't enough space for Elemental. Here, they're called Nomas. You know, Earth, you know, which is a type of Earth spirit. And in later versions, I think they're just called, like, Earth Elementals and stuff like that. So, if I check my guide here... So, yeah, Nomas are weak to fire. Okay, that is interesting. So, they are weak to fire. So, let's go ahead, pop off... Not a Fire 2, let's just pop off a Fire 1. And you're just going to attack. And you're also going to do a Fire 1. Try to take it out quickly. But I don't want to use my high-level... Ooh, I was going to say, I don't want to use my high-level spells. But if you're only doing 16 damage with a Fire 1... Okay, Jack did a little bit better. But Jack can probably do better with his sword. So I think... Let's just do straight-up attacks. They have 288 HP. So, according to my guide. Oh yeah, Jack can do a whole heck of a lot better with just his sword. But yeah, I don't feel like it's worth wasting magic on this guy. There we go. Alright, so now we want to make sure we grab both of these chests. We got a new antidote to replace one of the ones we already used and a little bit more gil. So that is it with this floor. We are done with this floor. Any other time we come to this dungeon, because like the Marsh Cave, the Terra Cavern is another 2-trip dungeon. You know, unlike the Marsh Cave where the second trip is optional, Here, you're going to have to do 2 trips. I'll just let you know that now. You know, it's pretty much mandatory for gameplay, for story progression. You'll understand a little bit more once we get down below the, past the next level, down to the 3rd level. But yeah, kind of sucks that you have to, you're forced to backtrack. But again, with the original difficulty of this game, you were kind of ending up having to backtrack anyways because you were out of resources. You couldn't really push forward that much further. So, the NES and the PS1 versions, they're kind of balanced around. You're going to end up making multiple trips to various dungeons, especially the way the inventory system worked on the NES version. It was very, very restrictive. Far more so than what we have now. Good, we got to level up. And so if you wanted all the loot, you pretty much had to make multiple trips to every dungeon. The Game Boy Advance PSP versions, they made things a lot easier, so you could steamroll through most dungeons in one trip. But I think the Pixel Remaster rebalanced things again. Not as difficult as the NES and PlayStation 1 versions, but not as easy as the Game Boy Advance and PSP versions. Not unless you really wanted to make it that way. You could take it either way using the boosters in there, where you could change the experience multiplier, either turning off experience entirely, setting it to like half times, normal experience, 1 times, 2 times, 4 times, and the same with Gil and so on. So you could really try to do like a low-level run, even trying a level 1 run if you really wanted to. I'm not entirely sure that's even possible, especially for the later bosses. But you could do things like that. You could turn encounters on and off if they were getting to be too much for you as well. So yeah, you could try doing a low-level run by turning encounters off, setting experience to half, and just relying on the bosses and like the encounter points and stuff like that. If you really wanted like a challenge run and stuff like that. Or if you wanted to make an easy time of it, just grind your way through the trophies. Because you can get them all in a single run too. Just set the experience multipliers, the guild multipliers on full, and just crank it up to max level pretty easily that way. The trophies aren't that difficult either way. It would just make it easier. Speaking of boosters, at some point, I never did get all the trophies for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. At some point, I need to play through that game again on hard mode and, like, do all the extra optional hard mode challenges that weren't in the standard mode. And I do know they updated the game after the, with the upcoming Xbox and Switch 2 releases. They updated the game to add boosters in. I don't think those affect trophies. Like, I don't think those disqualify you from getting trophies. So that might be an easier way for me to do it. Because I did go through the hard mode to get all the trophies for Final Fantasy VII Remake and Remake Intergrade. Thankfully for Remake Intergrade, it will auto pop the trophies if you load in your save from the PS4 version. And then you just have to deal with doing all the extra stuff for the intermission DLC. So that made things a little bit easier. I didn't have to play through the game on hard mode twice. But there were some challenges in there that were pretty difficult, even with looking up strategies and stuff. So I know Rebirth is even harder than that. Oh shit, I've been too busy talking, was not paying attention to people's health. I should have healed after the last fight with all those gargoyles. So we definitely need to heal after this one. I think we'll be okay with just 2 Minotaurs. But if it goes on long enough, we could be screwed. So it might be worth healing up and then popping off a memo save. Because, ooh. Oh, this is going to be a risk. Oh, do I want to do this? I won't have Dia 2 anymore. You know what? We'll do it. And potion. With luck. Okay, I was going to say with luck, we'll take out the Minotaur before Jill's spell pops off. But that was close. That was very close. All right, let's get everybody back up. Okay, Candle, we're going to take you up to 200. Jack, I think we're going to take you up to 150. Jill, I might do the same as well. No, I think you're fine at 119. Carl, though, definitely needs to go at least above 100. There we go. 115 is good. All right, let's go ahead and memo save. Because we're going to be heading down a level, and it gets a little bit tougher from here on. The third floor is one of the toughest of this dungeon. Because there are monsters down there that, if we didn't have the memo save, oh man. We basically have to pop back out, save the game, and then try the dungeon again. But the good news is, by getting all the loot on our way down, backtracking, when we do end up doing that backtracking, it's going to be a lot easier. Because we don't have to worry about all that. Alright, so this floor has 2 dungeon chambers. Okay, first off, we want to not go south from here. You could. It'll loop around kind of where we need to go. However, it's filled with a high encounter rate. The passage down there has a high encounter rate with, like, higher level monsters. I think it's mostly, like, minotaurs and trolls. So, if you think you can handle them, and you want to get all the experience and everything, go for it. I think instead it might be easier to go north, then go south from there, from the next chamber over. We gotta deal with all these tarantulas first. Alrighty. So yeah, this game, the dungeon layouts are very labyrinthine at times. With a lot of like looping passages and dead ends and stuff like that. So there's 2 different rooms on this floor with treasure. Alright. And actually, I think going north from at the start here is the shorter path to get where we're going, too. Alright. That's all those tarantulas done. Let's go ahead and use up an antidote here, get rid of that poison. Alright, so we want to go north and then south here. And then we're going to pass up our first opportunity to go east and take the second one. Alright, just gotta deal with these ogre chieftains first. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so we're gonna pass up that opportunity to go east, go down here. Now that other passage, that would loop around here. The one I was talking about earlier, that would loop here. You'd come up from the south there. We're going to go east and then south. And there we go. Just got to deal with all these gargoyles. Keep an eye on Jack, or I was going to say Jack and Jill. Keep an eye on Jill and Carl's health. Jack, too, a little bit, but it's mostly Jill and Carl I'm worried about. Every now and then, they'll land a heavy hit on Candle, too, but his defense is usually pretty good. As a warrior, all of his armor is stacked more towards defense than evasion. So he's less likely to evade attacks, but he's also less likely to take damage when enemy attacks do hit. But Jill and Carl, you want to go more towards evasion for them. If the attacks miss, even better. They don't get as targeted as often. Alright, Candle and Jill are a little low on health. Jack's doing good. Now, Carl just went below 100, so I may want to heal up a little bit after this fight. You know, I don't want their health to drop so low I really have to worry about it. Alright, let's go ahead and pop a potion. There we go, there we go. There we go. Alright, we're good. Alright, so... yeah, you can see we're getting bats on this floor. I haven't even mentioned those yet. You've seen them around. But it kind of makes sense because we're heading towards the vampire's lair. So it makes sense that there'd be bats around here. Vampires are often associated with bats. You know, mostly because of Dracula. Although I don't remember if he ever actually turns into a bat in the book. I do know, like, in various, you know, Dracula-based movies, he does. I think he's more associated with, like, wolves, if I remember correctly from the book. You know, you hear them howl, and he's like, ah, the creatures of the night, and stuff like that. Which is actually a line from the book, if I remember correctly. Oh, shoot, I have to deal with that poison. Yeah, it's been years since I read the book. I read it in college. It's a very interesting read. It's an epistolary format, which is something you don't see very often anymore, where it's not really a continuous first or third person narrative like we typically see novels today, but it's more a collection of letters and transcripts from audio, entry. You know, it's like a collection of letters, newspaper clippings, diary entries, transcriptions of audio diaries and stuff like that. You know, rather than straight up narration. All right, so this one, yeah, this one we have a. Oh, I probably should heal. Damn it. We have a Noma guarding the entrance to this room, so we're gonna have to face off against him again on the way out. Definitely want to heal after this fight. But I think we should be okay. If we don't take him this round, it should be the next one. A little bit worried about some of our people, though. There we go. Okay, not worried anymore. We're good. Yeah, and if you're remembering things like the vampire bat, that is actually a kind of a misnomer. The vampire bat has nothing to do with vampires. It's called a vampire bat, but I think it actually eats fruit, mostly. Most bats prey on, like, insects and stuff like that, whereas the vampire bat mostly eats fruit. And if I remember correctly, that's also the one where the facial structure, the cranial structure, the skull, is shaped much more like a fox. It almost looks like a flying fox than a flying rat. Alright, we'll leave it like that for now. Alright, we got some gil here. A leather shield, which is useless to us at this point. 5,000 gil, that's worth it. However, let's do a memo save real quick, just in case. Because like I said, we have to face off against that Noma again to get out of here because it's tied to an encounter point. Every time you step on that tile, you will end up in a fight with a single Earth Elemental. Or a Noma, as they're called in this version. And they can hit hard. Jack is already down to 59 HP. Lost over 100 from a single attack. But with the way Canal and Jack have been hitting, you know, it only lasts... You know, the fight only lasts 3 rounds, maybe 4 at the most. Alright, so I gotta heal people up again. Ugh. Drop a couple potions. Get them back up above 100. Alright. Let's get out of here, and we're gonna head northeast now. Once we deal with all these tarantulas. Alright. Gonna have to deal with that poison afterwards, though. That always sucks. The good news is, I think this is one of the last dungeons where there's a huge amount of monsters that can poison you. So I don't think you typically have to deal that much with poison after this dungeon. It's mostly in the Marsh Cave and Earth Cave that you have to deal with that. But I could be wrong. I could be misremembering things. There we go. Alright, let's go ahead and heal up that poison. Get some antidotes out. Alright. So now, once we get up into this northern passage here, we're going to go east, and then from there we want to go north. Continue heading northeast. The exit down, or rather the stairs down to the next floor are east and south of where we are. But we still want to hit up the last bit of loot here, especially because there's a good item there and another item we're going to definitely want to use when we get out of here. There we go. Just gotta deal with the last Ogre Chieftain. I was gonna say last two Ogre Chieftains, but there's only one left now. Okay, we're not doing too bad. May want to heal a little bit. Jack's not looking too hot, but we're doing mostly okay. There we go. Okay. Ah, so many fights. What do we got? Ugh. 1 ogre and 3 chieftains. We can handle it. It's not too much trouble. We can handle it. Bye-bye, ogre. Not quite bye-bye, chieftain. Not yet, but soon. Soon TM. There we go. And... missed. Alright, so we won't finish it this round because the only person left is Candle. There we go. I was going to say, if they could take out the other Ogre Chieftain, Candle already did massive damage to this one, so it's dead now. Alright. Oh, seriously, 1 tile. 1 freaking tile! Now we're facing off against a pair of Minotaurs. And they could potentially hit hard if they hit anybody besides Candle. Alright. We definitely want to heal up after this fight, though. Now the Carl's down to just 33. But I think we'll be okay. Yep. Alright. Starting to run low on potions. There we go, get you up above 100. Alright, let's go ahead and pop a memo save. There we go. Alright, up in here. Oh, seriously? Right outside the room. I was just about to step into the doorway and reveal what's inside the room. Alright. Alright, there we go. Got you. Please somebody didn't step in the counterpoint. 4 Ogre Chieftains. I don't think that was in counterpoint. So I'm like, I wouldn't put it past them to drop one right in the middle of the room. So there's one chest here you have to approach from the front. The other two I think you can get from the side. Which is good because I think they have encounter points in front of them. Alright. Come on. Ah! We're just slowly getting worn down. The good news is after this room, we're done with this floor, we can continue on to the next. And when we return, we don't have to deal with any of the side chamber bullshit. Alright, so we're going to go there, the Coral Sword, which is effective against aquatic monsters. But it's not any better than the Worm Killer, otherwise. It is better than the Werebane, so we'll go ahead and swap it out here for a slightly higher attack for Jack, and we'll sell off the Werebane soon enough. The Coral Sword, by the time it actually becomes useful, you usually have better weapons. Because that's best when you're like in the area with the water crystal. You're facing off against a whole bunch of water-based monsters there. Otherwise, you're mostly using it while at sea. You know, it's very useful at sea, but otherwise, you know, by the time you get there, you know, we're not going to be using the ship that much more, honestly. You know, around the halfway point of the game is when you get the airship, at which point you don't have to sail anywhere ever again. And there's no random encounters when you're on the airship at all. You know, some games, some Final Fantasy games do still allow random encounters when on certain specific airships. Like Final Fantasy III, you go through a whole host of airships in that one. When you finally get the Invincible, it's a much slower airship, so you do end up fighting in the air sometimes. But the Invincible also has cannons that will aid you in battle. So we get a little bit of gil there and a tent. The tent is useful. That we'll use that when we get out of here. Let's go ahead and save real quick. And actually, I probably should have healed first. Get everybody back over 100. We are almost out of potions. We only have 3 left. But we're going to push forward to the last floor we can get to right now, which, yes, indeed, is the 3rd floor, you know, B3. You know, that is where the vampire's lair is. I do love how the design of the Coral Sword, it's literally like a branch of coral. A branch of sharp coral. Alright, so we're going to go down to the south here and then continue east. And that will be how we get to the 3rd floor. Alright. Alright, Minotaur is gone. Unfortunately, you have to heal, like, immediately again. Because he hit hard on both Jill and Carl. And we are now out of potions. We will have to go back if we want to get more. Go back to probably Cornelia would be the easiest, but also Elfheim. And we're just going to push onward. Alright, we are going to pop a memo save right now. Alright, so those doors you see to the north there, that is where we want to go. This floor, the design of this floor, it's the main passage spirals around. And there's chambers with loot off to the sides. We want to try to get as much of that as we can this first time through. And I should have gone to the side because now we have to fight a Noma, don't we? Oh no, 3 Ogre Chieftains. Okay, not as bad. We want to get as much of the loot as we can this first way through. Because when we have to backtrack to get out of the dungeon and we have to backtrack to get back into where we need to go here, we don't have to want to deal with all that extra stuff. We can just, you know, make a beeline through it, through the main passage. Yeah, I do also think this is the last dungeon in the game that requires you to backtrack, regardless. Actually, this is the only dungeon in the game that requires you to backtrack. You know, like I said, the Marsh Cave, you're going to want to backtrack and return to it at least a second time if you want to get all the loot. But this is the only one, like, if you're unprepared, you have to, like, majorly backtrack. Okay, so yeah, we're facing off against a lot of undead enemies here. Let's go ahead and pop off a Fire 2. Let's hold on to that Dia 2. Let's do a Dia 1 instead. And pop off a Fire 2 as well. To deal with all these whites and gas so we don't end up stun locked. Alright, so this Fire 2 should just take care of the rest then. Yeah, all the other dungeons that were, you know, basically tend to require 2 trips. You can do them in 1 if you're prepared, if you're well prepared. And I'll explain, like, each one as we get there. So we want to go over here, and then I think, is it south from here? Yes, we want to go south. Going north, or going east from here just leads to dead ends. We want to go south. So the Werebane is still kind of useful here because we still have werewolves and stuff like that. But I think we'll stick to the Coral Sword just for the extra attack point. And if we don't get something better for Jack by the time we get there, we probably will, but if we don't get him something better, it'll be useful on the sea and then when we get to the water dungeon. You know, going after the water crystal. Alright, let's go ahead and pop off a Fire 2, a Dia, and a Fire 2 to deal with these guys real quick. Yeah, because Candle immediately got paralyzed. Alright, Dia 1, not quite enough for all of them, but that's fine. This Fire 2 will take care of the rest. Alright, let's see, how are we doing on... Oh, I'm out of potions, aren't I? Damn, I forgot about that. Alright, in that case, go to Jack. We'll do a Cure 1 on Carl. Get him back up above 100. And then on Jack as well. And Candle, get him above 100. You've only got 1 left. We may as well. Let's just give it to Candle. There we go. No more level 1 spells from you. Let's do a memo save real quick. And down around here. Alright, bunch of Ogre Chieftains to deal with. There we go. So yeah, like I said, this is the only dungeon that requires you to backtrack out of it in order to progress the story. Yeah, the Marsh Cave, you know, you have to return at least for a second trip if you want to get all the loot. Same for the Temple of Chaos. And, you know, there's future dungeons that are basically 2-part dungeons, in effect. However, you're not necessarily required to backtrack out of them in order to complete them. You can complete them in 1 run if you're prepared. You know, if you're well prepared. But the way the game is balanced, especially on the NES and PS1, 9 times out of 10, you know, if you don't spend a lot of time grinding, you're going to end up having to backtrack just because you run out of supplies and, you know, you don't have enough supplies and HP and spell charges to continue forward. But for now, I think we'll be fine. Alright, go to the side here. We got a potion. Not a huge amount, but it's still worth it to grab. We'll probably use it here after this fight. Alright, Fire 2. Let's do a Dia 1 and a Fire 2. I'm running out of Fire 2 spells. And I would like to hold on to them if I could. But I also don't want to let all these zombies, basically, stun lock us. And they will if they get the chance. Alright, so back to the main passage here. This door on the north is going to have a treasure chest beyond it. Fuck me. Okay. This is a massive risk. Okay, you're going to run. You're going to do a Fire 2. These guys only have about 50 health each. However, they also have the ability to petrify you. Okay. Yeah, at that point I was kind of hoping Jill didn't run away. So yeah, you want to take those guys out as quick as you can. And they're not really weak to anything, so just like pop off, you know, some tier 2 elemental spells so that you can attack as many of them as possible. Because they can petrify you. And if you finish a battle with a petrified character, that character does not gain any XP. It's the battlefield equivalent of stone because they're pet or of KO because they stay petrified after combat. The only way to fix it is to use the Stona spell, which is a later level white magic spell. I don't think it's level 5, might be level 6. White magic spell, or to use a gold needle. Now, thankfully, we do have one, but that is it. All right, let's go ahead and use this on Carl. And we are definitely going to do a memo save. So yeah, those guys are the ones I'm always constantly worried about on here. You know, the zombies are a risk if they stun lock you, but the cockatrices can really ruin your day if they manage to petrify one of your guys. All right. Fire off a Fire 2. Fire off a DO1. No more Fire 2s for you. You just have Ice 2. All right, let's do an Ice 2. Really wish I could have held on to that Fire 2, but... Ooh. We just got paralyzed. Bad. Oh, fuck me. Fuck me. Because these guys are not weak to ice. They're weak to... Oh my god. Well, we're gonna run. Oh my god. You know, maybe another Ice 2 would wipe them out, or at least most of them, but with everybody else paralyzed, I do not want to risk it, because if Carl ends up paralyzed as well, we're stun locked. And we end up having to wait out the battle while slowly watching all of our health drain. And we're already on low health as it is. And we have no more potions. No more potions. Alright, I really wanted to hold on to some of these. Let's try this. Alright, I really wanted to hold on to that Dia too. I really did. But I have to use my magic here to heal. Same with this Fire 2. I really wanted to hold on to that. Fuck me. Well, we're going to be going up against the easiest boss in the game without the ways to make it even easier. So it may end up running for 2 or 3 rounds. That boss fight. Oh, I forgot that that's empty. But, you know, we're going to be going up against the easiest boss in the game. Even easier than Garland. You know, Garland is the second easiest boss fight in the game. So we'll see how well things go. Because we're out of healing magic, we're out of potions, we're out of everything now. So it's going to be a bit rough trying to get out of here too. We may end up having to start running away from fights. Yeah, I don't think... Yeah, you have no more healing magic either. You have no healing magic. Damn it! This is not good. We're so close, though. We have one more treasure chest. Oh, and I think it might be guarded by a Noma, too. Alright, so let's go ahead and pop a memo save. Yeah, it is. And I don't think you can get around it. At least not on the NES. You might be able to here. But on the NES, yeah, you... Oh, fuck me. That is not good. You know what? I'm going to do the soft reset, since we have the memo there, right outside this room. Can I get around it? We might not be able to. It's right in front. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, this room is like even narrower on the NES where you cannot get around it, I think. So yes, thank you. We don't have to deal with that Noma. Much better. Okay. Alright, so right down in here we have this bat standing in our way. If you talk to it, all living creatures were born to die. The seal cannot be lifted, and so the earth shall rot. Yeah, this bat transforms into the vampire. This is the vampire's lair. This is no place for the likes of you. Allow me to free you from your miserable mortal state by drinking your blood. Oh, excuse me. Yeah, the vampire is the weakest boss in the game because he only has, I want to say, like 120 HP, maybe 240. I don't really remember. Where does it say here? Oh, 156. And he's weak to fire magic and DS spells. But we don't have any of those available to us. So we're going to cast Steel on you. We're going to do... Oh, I can't even do... let's do an Invis 1. You know what? Screw it. Let's do a Silence. I doubt it's going to work, but we'll try it. And we will cast a Haste on Candle as well. Ah, kind of hoping that we could have gotten the Steel and Haste spell off first. You know, Steel, sometimes known as Temper in other versions, you know, when paired with Haste is a very great combo. It's a very excellent combo. Saber would be even better, but Saber is a high-level black magic spell that only the only applies to the caster. So, doesn't always work. Anyways, let's do the same combo there. Let's do an Invis on you. And let's do, yeah, same combo here. Alright. Now there is an item later in the game that allows anybody, yeah, see, a single attack after that first round takes him out. Easiest boss in the game. So there is an item later in the game that allows whoever uses it to cast Saber on themselves. And that is the only way for the warrior and red mage and monk to do that. Alright, I did save, right? I wasn't paying attention. I did do the memo save. There we go. Alright, so we want to get this. Has our new key item. This is the Star Ruby. And if you remember, one of the guys in Melmond told us that the Titan likes rubies. It's his favorite meal. Alright, if we continue onward here, we end up with a steel plate here. A stone plate rests on the floor. It seems to emanate an evil force. So yes, we cannot progress further into this dungeon to deal with whatever's going on below here. So now we have to backtrack out of here. Which is going to be a little bit rough because we're running low on health. So we're going to be popping memo saves like constant. And possibly running away from fights as well. Because we need to get out of here. I'm debating on whether or not I want to go just cut out the backtracking and meet you guys in Elfheim where we can heal and get supplies and stuff like that. You know what? I think I will. So I will see you guys then. You know, we're going to go all the way back to Elfheim.